They called me into their office and like read me all the comments. And honestly, I just remember taking my water bottle and just like sipping it, being like, this is how I'm not going to cry, like sipping my water bottle. And there's a question on it where it's like, how effective is your manager? And not going to lie, I've been there where I smashed the not effective at all button in the past, but never did I imagine that that would be like me. And that was the aha moment where I was like, I've got to be a great manager and leader. And I'm not.
Wow.
I went from account executive to VP at Twilio to CRO of Deliver, which was acquired by Shopify, is really about changing who I am in a way that generated massive business success along the way.
Holy moly cannoli.
I stopped ever being worried about what those surveys would say about me. I am Soumya Sriganesh Tulloss, and to me, to belong means feeling comfortable with the people around me, not worried that they're going to judge or dislike me.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being willing to share your story. One of the things that I got to really witness about you is how you just took this coaching time together so seriously and then skyrocketed yourself from Twilio in your role from account executive to chief revenue officer at Shopify. Holy moly cannoli. I want to hear it all.
I can't believe the journey that we've been on. And honestly, you've been a huge part of it. And it is funny, when I met you, I was an account executive, and I remember there was like kind of just advertised on our internal whatever posts, come to this belonging workshop. And someone near me was like, I'm going to this. And I was like, kind of like, sure, I'll go too. And what I heard from you was different than what I've heard from anyone else talking about performance coaching at work. And one of the things you've always been really strict with me about and straight with me about is this is about a business outcome.
Absolutely.
And part of that journey of how I went from account executive to VP at Twilio to CRO of Deliver, which was acquired by Shopify, is really about changing who I am in a way that generated massive business success along the way.
That's phenomenal. Wow. So proud of you.
When I was working with you as a coach, we were forming a new business unit, and it just had different personalities from all kinds of departments. And, they weren't necessarily people I hired, but they were people who were basically reporting to me or working with me. And I had a gentleman I was working with who was a peer of mine who would just interrupt me all the time. And I think you remember this story, but I was talking to you about it. And you taught me a mental model that I use all the time, which is in the moment you were like, you know what? Next time he interrupts you, let him say what he's going to say. And then just look at him and like take a deep breath. And then with complete confidence, just ask, what's the value you're creating for our team when you interrupt me?
So what happened when you said that to him?
Stunned, shocked, silence.
I love it.
Like
so
just
much.
like holy F, like what did this woman just say to me?
Right.
Basically. And then like I could almost visibly see the wheels turning of how do I even freaking respond now?
Exactly. Right. Because that question in of itself, what's the value in, and then it's something, very disparaging in some capacity, because there is value in it. He's wanting to be right. He's wanting to, make sure that he has being seen in a power situation, whatever it is for him. I don't know what it is for him. But to be able to ask that in that structure really makes the brain stop for a moment. And so as he was stunned, then what happened?
So then basically apologized, and we continued the conversation.
Good.
And he really never did it again.
Right.
And actually, I noticed a couple of times. I mean, we all interrupt.
Of course.
That's like conversation. I'm a bad interrupter, frankly. So, and it's because we're excited about what we have to share.
For sure.
And we never think about it from the reframe of I've interrupted someone. We're so consumed in our own excitement to share that we don't realize what we're doing to someone else. And it's been a really interesting leadership tactic for me. And I've noticed you do it when you're stumped with something. You will ask, like, what is the value or what is important about X, Y, or Z? And I notice myself having to ask myself that question a lot about my own actions, because when we're reacting and just doing what feels right in the moment, we are not really optimizing for the value we're providing to our customers or the people around us or to our business. We're just reacting. And like probably a lot of smart people, when they're reacting 70% of the time, they're right or whatever. But that 30% of the time that they're wrong and that they're actually like detracting from the value they're creating, it is really, really damaging. And so it's been really effective for me, even honestly with customers. In our industry and supply chain, one of the things I've observed is like, you kind of go talk to someone who's whatever, the VP of supply chain at some company, and they're basically going to tell you that they're an expert at supply chain and everything they're doing is perfect and right. And you couldn't possibly, do anything better with your technology. It is a waste of money. That's like where almost half of my sales conversations start. And when you start to ask your customer what's important about the way you're managing your transportation, what's important about having this customization that you're asking me about, what's important about this or that, you actually put people in that mindset of walking themselves through the need to change.
I remember there was a moment we were coaching in one of the conference rooms at Twilio, and I did a lot of zany things with you. I did a lot of zany things with you. There's the story about the wallet. I want you to share that. That was hilarious and so insightful. I think you really took that to heart in a really big way. But do you remember when we built your squad?
Yes.
Talk about building your squad and why we did that.
So for me, the concept of building a squad was having a cheerleader like on my right shoulder as I'm going through work, and actually just being able to view myself through the lens of someone or people who support and love me unconditionally.
Yes.
And what I think maybe a lot of people don't know when they look at me is like a lot of times at work, I have an inner dialogue of like, or monologue of maybe I shouldn't be here, or I've got to prove something, or like, I suck and everyone hates me because I'm so volatile and get angry at work. So like people are judging me for that. Like I've taken a lot of feedback that I've gotten over the years and a lot of experiences to heart. And I actually have that kind of fear mindset a lot of the time. And I think maybe a lot of people don't realize that I feel that way because I'm the boss of my team.
Right.
But that's like how I feel a lot. And the cool thing about the squad concept is visualizing yourself almost from the outside, from the lens of someone who thinks the world of you. Like my squad included like my grandma,
right,
who just loves me and thinks I'm great and thinks I'm doing cool stuff no matter what, and like sort of has no idea what I'm actually doing, but thinks it's awesome.
That's what grandmas are for.
My husband, Justin, who thinks I'm like so awesome no matter what I'm doing. And thinks I'm amazing. Actually, we were in the car the other day and I'm going through something right now at work that's like a little bit tough. And he was like, well, like, why do you care about all of this? And I was like, I just want people to think I'm awesome and see I can do awesome things. And he's like, you are awesome and doing awesome things. And I think that's a good example of like why you need to look at yourself from this perspective of like a squad. Because for me, when I'm making myself smaller by telling myself that I need to impress people or that I need to operate a certain way, I'm actually like not allowing myself to achieve what I could really achieve.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
My goodness.
It's interesting because one of the things through my coaching that has become something people say about me, but wasn't before, is that I'm spontaneous and vulnerable.
100%.
And I don't think of myself necessarily as those adjectives, but I think like working with you and just being able to articulate how I'm feeling and really own that has been eye-opening. And I think one of the things for me that's interesting is like I've come to the realization that who I am is who I am. And if other people are perceptive, they're going to see to some extent your insecurities, your great elements, your good days, your bad days, how you're feeling. Mm-hmm. And putting words to it is actually easier for me than having it just bottled up inside and come out in passive aggressive ways. Of course, yeah. And you were asking a little bit about, my team and the conflict we had. And I don't know if you remember this, but we did a team workshop. Yes. And we had gone around the room and we were all saying, I want to say it was either something that made us happy or just using a word to describe our feelings. And there were one or two people that just could not come up with a word.
Wow. I don't actually remember this.
And they were people that are feeling people that are deeply connected to me and to others people, but they just could not come up with a word to describe how they were feeling. Mm. And it's interesting because people are very disconnected from their feelings at work.
Oh my gosh.
And try really hard to just completely compartmentalize it. Yeah. And for a long time, I tried to do that because I was feelings, who gives a fuck, Sorry, right. Are we saying curse words?
Yes.
Okay. Feelings, who gives a fuck, But the feelings are there. You're not blocking them out, right? They're still there and 100%. You're not blocking them out. Yeah. So really what's happening is rather than being self-aware, understanding your feelings, and then operating from zen and power and focus, you're just being passive aggressive and reacting and kind of operating from chaos.
This is so insightful, and this is so amazing that you are advocating for this. I'm just blown away. When we started, we were having conversations about feelings. That was something that we had to have a conversation around to get that vocabulary kind of churning within you.
Yes. Yes.
And look at you now.
Look at me now. And it's interesting, at work, I ask people a lot, how does that make you feel? And people have to kind of take a step back.
And really kind of examine and yes. look at where they are and what's going on for them.
Yeah.
I'm really called to read this one sentence. I realized that being good as an IC did not mean that I was good as a leader. And I had no clue that those people hated me. This is a direct quote from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
My goodness, talk about that.
So the backstory here is Twilio did, and every company does and should do, an employee engagement survey. And there's a question on it where it's how effective is your manager? And not gonna lie, I've been there where I smashed the not effective at all button in the past, but never did I imagine that would be me. And this was my first team that I was leading. I think I had 4 or 5 people on them and 1 or 2 thought I was an effective manager, basically. And, I reported to someone pretty senior and they rolled up all the scores and I'm sure he got a thing of who are all the people in your org who have a bad manager effectiveness score. And I was right there on the list. And honestly, this leader at the time was really trying to help me, but they called me into their office and read me all the comments. And honestly, I just remember taking my water bottle and just sipping it, being this is how I'm not going to cry, sipping my water bottle. Because I just had no idea what those people thought about me. Right. And in my mind, everything I was doing because I really wanted our business to be successful, because there was a lot of pressure to deliver a certain type of output. And the team wasn't always able to just do it. And I really just at that point had a deep belief that my way was really good because I had been rewarded so much for doing things my way. Yeah. And I was so myopic about how things should look. I mean, down to dumb stuff like the format, of a document.
Wow. That level of detail.
But over the years, that was an eye-opening moment. And that was the aha moment where I was I've got to be a great manager and leader, and I'm not. And that's a totally different skill that I need to learn. And in a way, I'm really glad that happened the way it did, because if it hadn't been kind of difficult for me to hear the message, I don't think I would have been motivated to change.
That's an incredibly powerful state to be in and to hold that stance, Soumya. Wow.
If someone had just been oh, you got a bad score, you'll do better next time.
We talked about so much about, being right versus being in relationship, right? And that then when we need to be right, when we're in that micromanager state, it's a state of being terrified, of doing it wrong, making a mistake. And that's why we want to do it right.
Totally.
We want to be good.
Totally.
We want to get credit. We want to be awesome. We want others to see us as awesome, right? How did you make the shift? And then tell everyone, what the score was after you made the shift.
How did I make the shift? So a lot of things. The first is that I had to really accept and open my eyes to my way is actually not the best way.
Yeah.
And it's not, and certainly not the only way.
Certainly not the only way, right?
And it took me a journey to get there. But what I really started to do was just release a lot of control over outputs. I think that for a while, I probably overcorrected to be more of a people pleaser manager and nervous about how to give feedback or when to give feedback or when to step in, because I was well, maybe my job is just making my employees feel happy versus making my employees feel productive and engaged. Yeah. But over, I think, the years, what I think has helped me is now if and you asked what the result was, by the time I left, I had 100+ person organization and consistently got 90+% employee engagement scores. I stopped ever being worried about what those surveys would say about me. And I think if you ask people why they're excited to be part of my team now is one, I think people really believe and understand that I'm here to win as a team, that I have a vision about how we're going to do that, and that I'm very committed to personally making people successful on the team who are on board with that. And having people who are excited about the goal that we're accomplishing together and confident that I will lead us to that is one really big thing. And the reason I bring it up in that way is people are not excited that I'm setting the standard for work output and managing the work and setting up the formats of decks and documents and metrics that they can conform to. It's much more about setting a very clear understanding of the business goal and business strategy and how each individual and their team and their goal fits into that.
So you're committed to building community, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. The company is all about building community, and you're actually modeling that behavior and that communication style. When you talk about people describing you as approachable, being vulnerable, we just witnessed that. It was really beautiful. How did you arrive there? How did we get from your team hates you to a 90+, manager effectiveness score to people now saying at Shopify, they want to work with you. They want to be on your team.
I feel for me, that is really where it comes back to this entire concept of neuroepigenetics. And actually, for me, an aha moment and was understanding the science of what was going on in my body and realizing that if that was my brain chemistry, there was no way I was going to be successful. Who looks at someone who's at the top of their game, Serena Williams, and it's you know what? She's successful because she's in fight or flight mode and she's scared of shit. No, that's not how she looks when she's playing tennis.
Right.
You know what I mean? So step one for me was just this awareness that there's so much macro context of your family and your body that is driving and creating your brain chemistry that is then controlling how you are reacting in something that seems totally unrelated, like a pipeline review at work.
Absolutely.
But it is all related, is what I've learned. And what I think you and I spent a lot of time unpacking was basically really understanding why my relationship and connection to other people is the way it is. And rather than I guess the focus of therapy, which is digging very, very deep into why and how you got into where it is, really more pivoting from identifying these trends and behaviors to really then strategies of self-awareness and then how you act to snap your brain out of fight or flight, to snap your brain out of trauma and stress, and to then snap into looking at things rationally, empathetic, connecting the people and the business together in a way that really drives outcomes.
So our brain is wired for two things, right? Our brain is wired to belong, and our brain is wired to form relationships. Part of what we were working with was, how do you find your sense of belonging on your team so that you can lead and inspire and impact and influence? And how do you connect when people aren't wanting to connect with you? And the two core pieces of relationships are attachment or lack thereof and authenticity. The definition of authenticity is connection to self, which you have spent an inordinate amount of time working on. How you can spontaneously share authentically is because you are connected back to yourself now. You are aware of what's happening for you. You're getting curious about how you're showing up, right? So that you can pivot, so that you can course correct, so that you can
100%
do a millimeter shift in that moment for whatever reason.
And what I want to create really as a leader, and we put this on my I am list, which I'm going to get to, is I want to create a leadership team of emotionally connected, emotionally competent leaders who can help me percolate that through my audience. And one of the things I've really thought about that's so different in terms of how I lead and actually who's promoted and thriving within my organization is people who model I loved your word, the focus on attachment, the focus on emotional awareness, and they're harnessing that power to create great organizations.
100%. So for those who are interested in understanding attachment style, there's a free online tool you can take. It's Diane Poole, Poole, survey, and that'll give you kind of the percentages of disorganized attachment, secure attachment, anxious, ambivalent attachment, and avoidant attachment, right? And I love your vision of wanting to connect an emotionally stable, emotionally resonant, emotionally present team. That's what an amazing vision, Soumya. Talking about putting together visions. One of the things that we did together, and I do with every single client, is building out an I am list. So we start off with, okay, great. What would you like? And you come back to the next session with this huge list of all the things that you would like. And then we take the time to restructurize the sentence. I just made up that word. So that it is neurochemically shifting both brainwaves and the chemistry in your body, right?
That's right.
So we moved the sentence structures from I would like blah, blah, blah to I am creating, building, envisioning, manifesting, whatever it is. And I can't believe that I haven't seen you in all these years. You pulled out your phone, you have the list. Wow. Will you share some of the things on that list? Of course.
I mean, and it's a tactic that I use with my team a lot.
And as you go through them, tell us what actually came to fruition.
Of course. So here it says, I'm inviting the opportunity to become a CEO at a company that generates $1 billion or more in revenue. I haven't done that yet. I'm grateful to have an incredible, loyal, dedicated, focused, competent team. I have that. I bet a lot of them will like this on LinkedIn when I post it. It says a dollar amount that I'm not going to say here. But it says I'm earning this amount or more every year. And I love this because or more is something I've learned from you. When we went through this, one of the things I loved is like you added or more at a few, and then you just went through the whole list and we were like added or more in a bunch of places. And I use that all the time.
Yeah. So as you craft out your own I want lists, everybody, just make sure that you're putting or more at the end of the sentences. So things that you would like to share with the audience, things that you would like to say that they need to think about moving forward for them in their career, how to transition, make the next step, ways in which they can show up in even greater potentiality as a leader.
So I'm going to bring it back to something that's very tied to the I am list, which is the story about the wallet.
Okay. I love this.
Do you want to tell?
You say it.
Okay. We were meeting and we were having a coaching session and you were like, give me your wallet. And I was like, why would I do that? And I was like, whatever, it's a coaching session. So gave her my wallet and she was like, and here's $1 billion instead. And it really has stuck with me because I don't think I was conscious of it until this exercise, but I'm constantly thinking about not losing what I have or not losing what I can see right in front of me without realizing that when I'm looking here, I'm missing everything that's out there.
Exactly.
And I think about it all the time because like even now with my current job, like I think a lot about like, oh, well, I have equity in this company or I'm the CRO of this or why would I take a risk and go somewhere else? Even sometimes recruiters or someone will call you and say, well, you must be really happy. Your company got acquired and you're in this new place. Like, why would you look at something else? And I'm like, I don't know. What if like I get, I don't know, to be the CEO of Good American or something like that tomorrow? Like that's like really my dream, And it's a totally eye-opening point of view. And so to tie it back to your question, I think about what should people start with?
Yeah.
I think that there's something really powerful in anchoring your mindset on your opportunity. Mm-hmm. That's your real like meta opportunity as opposed to protecting what you see in front of you.
Exactly.
Pursuing the opportunity versus protecting is huge.
This is so important. How does one even begin to make that shift? Because if I come from trauma and my parents and grandparents come from hardship and they spent so much of their life surviving the moment, right? Your parents came to this country with so little money, right? Mm-hmm. How do we start to open that up? How do we start to create this opportunity to go, okay, I have $10. This is the $10 I got. How do I not cling to the $10 so that I can actually invite $100,000?
The question kind of gives me chills because I still think it's so hard. And I don't necessarily know that I've mastered it. But for me, the thing that coaching really helped me start to do to get down this path was really first understanding myself and understanding what I really want.
Yeah. What
I really want is not $10. And what I'm really capable of is 100,000 or more.
Exactly. Nicely done.
And one of the things that I think a coach is really helpful for and evaluating what you do as your kind of career plan and next step is being really honest about what you want and what you're capable of. And I want to be the CEO of a really impactful company, but everyone wants something a little different. I work with people who are so incredibly happy and they'll say like, I don't want to ever be a people manager.
Yep. Absolutely.
If I can do my work in 4 hours and be done and hit my number and golf or spend time with my kids or whatever it is, like that's great too. I think like capitalism tells us that like your goal should be making a ton of money and being in the top seat, but like that's not true in actual life where we care about being happy. I think a coach is very helpful in helping figure out the right goal for you and the right goal that's not just based off of what you see in front of you or getting a high positive impact rating or whatever it is. It's like identifying the right goal for you, I think is a huge step.
So this brings me to a very interesting question that seems it's non sequitur, but I don't think it is. What's the value of discomfort? Because if I have $10 and I want 100,000, the journey from 10 to 100 is going to, or 100,000 is going to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the value in discomfort?
For me, discomfort, I think, can mean change. I think change is really hard.
Yeah.
The value for me of discomfort is it's a sign that we're changing. And it's interesting because like tying this back to like business and results, like one of the things I love within sales leadership is challenger sale. And we're building that out now. And if you guys don't know, it's like a style of selling and a set of behaviors. And a lot of people have done a ton of science around selling, and the people who exhibit the challenger behaviors are consistently overperformers and more successful. And there's 3 or 4 behaviors: teach, tailor, take control, which is just about how you sell and manage a sales cycle. But there's another one called constructive tension. And people who are comfortable with constructive tension,
this all day long, keep going,
can absolutely overperform. And what does constructive tension look like? Like, to me, it's sort of like asking a question like, well, if we don't change and we're here in the same space with whatever crappy supply chain cost structure 1 year from now, what's your boss going to say about that?
I love that so much. That is so great.
You know, and just being quiet while people think about it. And it is hard because at work, what we're programmed to think about, whether it's our client or a coworker, is actually that we should be eliminating discomfort and tension.
Exactly.
We should be making people around us feel good. Actually, for a long time, I feel like the coaching and feedback I got was like, why aren't you making people around you feel good? And being comfortable with constructive tension in the long run, I think, is how you drive change in your organization.
Okay, so this is brilliant. And one of the things that I have been talking about is the number one leadership skill that is absolutely needed in today's society with VUCA, right? With volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And navigating the current, global economic situations and the ways in which we have to show up with organizations and handle all of this. The number one leadership skill to master is not empathy. The number one leadership skill to master is not active listening. The number one leadership skill to master is sitting in discomfort. Because from there, you can access empathy. From there, you can move into active listening. From there, you can ask really powerful questions that get a team to start thinking differently.
Totally.
McKinsey has a number of disengaged employees at 67.7%.
That's a lot.
And Gallup has it at 68% because of toxic workplace behavior. So when you talk about organizations thriving, it's about the people. It's about the people. It's about the culture that we are building in order for people to thrive. How do we start to turn toward the retained population and re-inspire, reinvigorate?
Totally.
Re-engage.
One of the things I think sometimes folks forget is like there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes of like internal communications and communications people like telling you how to like write these docs and message things the right way, whatever that means. And what I think a lot of folks forget is in a tech work environment, like the people who are working in my org are smarter than me. They're not children.
That. Yeah,
like they're really, really smart people. And in general, they're choosing to not be in like a management role because like that's what they like to do. Or like they're just starting out, but they're still really smart. They're certainly smart enough to like sniff out the like inauthentic, random corporate BS messages, you know? And I think one of the things that's been really interesting and tough is like at this point, everyone's like founder letter of why we're having a layoff and stuff kind of looks like almost a form at this point. It's like, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And I have a like little bit of a different approach. It's not always like sanctioned, but it's like, hey, we're big boys and girls and children here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to treat you like an adult and tell you like really what's going on is our revenue needs to look like this and our costs need to look like that.
And this is how we get there.
And this is how we get there.
Yeah. Nice.
And like you kind of have the choice of if you want to be on board or not, 100%.
Absolutely.
And you're here because I really want you to be. I had to make really hard decisions about that. And I really want you to be here.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to pretend like the reasons are something that are different than what they really are.
I love that.
I think that's kind of I think like insulting the intelligence of your team by not telling them the real answer is a huge mistake. I mean, like obviously there's some things you really can't share for all those legal reasons and whatever else. But like the actual core business dynamics, I think you should be fairly transparent about.
Which brings us back to vulnerability and your authenticity and your willingness to really walk your talk, which I love.
Thank you. Well, just to wrap on that point, I think the thing I've realized is people know the truth.
They do.
They know the truth. So you're not helping yourself or anyone if you're not upfront.
I love this so much.
So that's probably something that you need to ask yourself if you're listening is when I am not presenting myself or my motivations 100% transparently, what is the impression I'm leaving on the people with whom I'm engaging? Because I should assume that they know to some extent those things. Maybe not the exact words, but they know the gist of it. People can pick up on the tone of it.
Of course. Absolutely. Soumya, what an amazing conversation. I am so grateful to have you here. And thank you for sharing all of your brilliance, your wisdom, and your incredible spirit.
Thank you. I love you very much. This meant a lot to me.
Aww. Likewise. Very much likewise.